KBLA Talk 1580. Sensational indeed. She's the president and founder of the Transformative Justice Coalition, an internationally renowned organization for their contributions on critical justice issues, including the passage of the landmark Civil Rights Act of 1991 and the 2006 reauthorization of provisions of the Voting Rights Act. She's board vice chair of the National Coalition to abolish the death penalty and serves on the board of director of Moms Rising, an independent sector. Attorney Barbara Arnwine, welcome.
Well, thank you. Thank you so much. It's a great honor to be on your show today.
Oh, I appreciate you waking up with us this morning. And, you know, we've talked a little bit about, we've talked a lot about voting rights in general. Many members of what I call our KBLA delegation have been disappointed that the Biden administration has not been able to come up with a voting protection bill. We have had some pretty extensive conversations about the Eighth Circuit court's ruling that that the only person who can sue for violations under Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act are the Department of Justice. But now that's been confirmed in the sense that the Eighth Circuit Court will not reconsider this at all, right? And it will go.
That's correct.
It may go to the Supreme Court. Where does that leave us in terms of, because that scary thing about that means the NAACP, the Mexican Legal Defense Fund, individuals who have, constantly brought lawsuits about violations, whether it be gerrymandering or our rights, our voting rights, are no longer allowed to do that according to this interpretation.
Yes, it's fascinatingly bad news for all of us because what it means is that right now in the United States of America, 7 states are basically enslaved. The rights of their voters are enslaved when it comes to trying to use the Voting Rights Act of 1965, that if they experience racial discrimination in voting, they are not allowed right now to file a case under the Voting Rights Act. They just can't do it because of this horrific, wrong-headed, absolutely unprecedented ruling from the Eighth Circuit. And what we need to understand is that in those 7 states, right now there's a case pending involving a noose that was hanging at a polling place. We know what a noose hanging at a polling place means to intimidate African-American voters. That case right now is on hold because it's unclear if it can proceed under this ruling. In 43 other states in this country, we can use a Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. If we're discriminated against racially, we can go straight into court and file our lawsuit. But in these 7 states, and I'm talking about North Dakota, South Dakota, those are states with heavy Native American populations. In Arkansas, huge African American population. In Minnesota, with Native American and African American and Latino populations. In Iowa, big Latino population growing. In Missouri, huge African American population and Latino population. Nebraska, huge both, African American and Latino and Native American. So you see how this affects huge groups of people. I mean, literally millions of voters are no longer protected. Now, some people will tell you, and I'm sure you've heard some people say, well, at least they can file under the Constitution, under the 15th Amendment or the 14th Amendment for any kind of racial discrimination. But what people forget is that those 2 amendments have been ruled by the Supreme Court as requiring intent. And it's so rare when someone's going to say, I'm going to just outright discriminate against people. They just will do it. They'll close all the black polling places in a county and leave all the white ones open. And then when you say that's racial discrimination, they'll say, "Oh no, we were only doing that for financial reasons." They'll come up with any kind of excuse. But the good thing about the Voting Rights Act is that it doesn't require intent. It does not require intent. It requires that you show the circumstances, that the overall circumstances are discriminatory and that they are denying people of color their equal rights to vote. So that's the dilemma we have. We have free states now, 43 states where you're free to use the Voting Rights Act, and 7 states where you're enslaved, where you can't use it.
So that's, if you think back on history, it's always the NAACP. It's always a community-based organization, which is considered a private organization. It's not part of the DOJ, obviously, that's suing around these things. So that means one of the main functions of some of these advocacy organizations is no longer useful in those states. Now, if this goes to the Supreme Court, that becomes the law of the land for all 50, likely.
If they uphold it.
Right.
If they uphold it.
Right.
If they don't reverse the case. I mean, that's the issue of the moment is, the ACLU and the plaintiffs in this case, the NAACP and the, Arkansas Policy Panel, they have roughly 90 days from the decision to not rehear. So they have roughly 2 more months left, 60 days left to make a decision if they're going to seek what's called certiorari from the Supreme Court for a review of this decision, hopefully to overturn it. But it's this Supreme Court. And the question is, what would they do? Would they, in fact, as you just mentioned, nationalize this by saying, yes, the Arkansas, the Arkansas case was decided correctly by the Eighth Circuit, or would they say the Eighth Circuit, you're just wrong? We believe on the law that we should win. This whole case is just basically a right-wing postured case. The people don't know it, but the Eighth Circuit is the most conservative circuit in the country. It's dominated by conservatives. It is, but even those of us who are lawyers and know that, we did not expect this. This is a surprise, because it's just so contrary to the law. We've been litigating these cases, as you mentioned, for some 60 years now. The 60th anniversary of the Voting Rights Act will occur, in 2025, and we have had victory after victory, as you can imagine, fighting voter discrimination. And what's been amazing is that, if you might recall, last year, everybody, you heard about Alabama. Alabama, had this horrible redistricting case where they literally were denying the ability to create a second congressional district in which African Americans had any opportunity to elect a candidate of their choice. And the Supreme Court said, basically, with Roberts and Kavanaugh joining, quote, the liberals on the court, Sotomayor and, Ketanji Brown Jackson and Kate, and bringing, this case. And they basically said that Alabama, you have discriminated against black voters. And the case was brought by the NAACP. It was brought by Alabama Forward. It was brought by, all of these private organizations. The case is called Milligan, Evans versus Milligan. And people don't understand Allen versus Milligan. And Allen is the Secretary of State for the state of Alabama. And they were trying to, basically win this case. Alabama was, and they lost it. But it was brought by private litigants. Evan Milligan is a leader of Alabama Ford, and he since made a move to another position, but at that time he was the CEO of that organization. And if you look, everyone, what's the harm in saying only the U.S. Department of Justice can do this? There's two big harms, folks. One is that the U.S. Department of Justice has only brought less than 10% of all the cases. When I was at the Lawyers Committee, our docket of cases, of voting rights cases, was longer and more extensive than the U.S. Department of Justice. Even though they have 126 lawyers or whatever.
Right.
And we only had 8 or 9 or 10, but we had, private law firms helping us in litigation, and we had all these amazing plaintiffs, from throughout the country who were seeking to vindicate their rights. And so I know this.
And not only that, Attorney Arnwine, it's going to shift with administrations. We saw what the Department of Justice did under Trump was like be his personal lawyers, and just kind of rubber stamp whatever he wanted. So that means if, the MAGA folks win, you can forget about any case except for cases meant to keep black people out of schools and out of jobs and to dismantle DEI. So that means then that the voting rights, our ability to sue under voting rights will just ebb and flow with whatever administration is in power.
Yes, and that's the danger, everyone, is that as bad as it is that even in the, quote, good administrations that want to enforce the act, that they still bring very few cases. Imagine with the Trump administration, as we saw, they brought no racial discrimination cases. They did bring cases involving language assistance and matters of that nature, but very few again. Nothing to crow about, be happy about, no good numbers precisely. So people need to understand that we, the private sector, we have carried the burden of enforcing the Voting Rights Act, but why not? Because think about it, the Voting Rights Act did not come from Congress sitting down and saying, oh, we hate all this discrimination, we're going to do something about it. It didn't come from President Johnson saying, oh, I'm the president, I want to make sure that there's some voting rights legislation. It happened because black and white people put their lives on the line. In Mississippi, in Alabama, they were murdered. Swerner, Cheney, Goodman, they were murdered, 60 years ago to this year. They murdered people in Alabama for, trying to march. And while they were on the march, they killed Jimmy Lee Jackson prior to the march, which led to the march. They killed James Reeve during the turnaround march. And they killed, Reverend James Reed, that is, and they killed Viola Liuzzo, a white woman from Detroit, for helping to transport people back and forth from Selma to Montgomery once people got an order that allowed them to march from Selma to Montgomery, because I was just not even a good 2 weeks ago in Selma for the reenactment of what they call Bloody Sunday, where John Lewis, Amelia Boynton, and so many others were savagely beaten on the Edmund Pettus Bridge for attempting to march from Selma to Montgomery. So this act came from the blood of private citizens who wanted, the ability to vote. And because of what happened and the public outrage over what happened at the Edmund Pettus Bridge and people seeing all these people martyred, that you ended up with Congress 6 months later passing the Voting Rights Act. So this act has always came and been, embedded in the hearts of private citizens. And so the fact that private citizens have been enforcing it the most is not a surprise. That is the American spirit, that we insist on our rights.
Talking with attorney Barbara Arnwine, we'll continue the conversation. She has at least one solution she'd like you to embrace. You'll hear about that and more when we come forward on KBLA Talk 1580.
A safe place to go loud. A great place for progressive politics. KBLA Talk 1580.
On your period, sudden gushes happen without warning. But now, you can say goodbye to stand-up gush fears. Thanks to Always Ultra Thins with rapid dry technology. It absorbs gushes 2 times faster than the leading store brand and gives you up to 100% leak-free protection. Hello, clean and comfortable with Always Fear No Gush.
Thanks for calling Discover. This is Gabby.
Hey, Gabby. It's Jennifer Coolidge. Hi. I'm so glad I reached you at 2 a.m.
Oh, of course. Anyone with a Discover card can call and talk to a real person 24/7. Now, how can I help?
Yeah, I used my Discover card to buy these yellow pleather pajamas, and I'm just not sure I'm pulling them off.
24/7 U.S.-based customer service. It pays to Discover. Limitations apply. Learn more at discover.com/creditcard.
Paid for by government.com. Did you know? The United States Mint has issued a new Morgan silver dollar coin in proof condition for the first time. Not only that, they are also minted in 99.9% pure silver for the first time ever in history. Coin experts are calling this an amazing opportunity for anyone that knows the enduring popularity of Morgans. But you must hurry. Only 400,000 of these legal tender silver dollars were issued. These first ever Morgan silver dollars are brand new with stunning mirror-like finish, minted by the iconic San Francisco Mint. Call now and you're guaranteed a new first ever 99.9% pure silver proof Morgan dollar. To learn more, call 1-800-973-9717. If you order now, you will receive a free coin collector bonus pack, a $25 value, free with every order. Call 1-800-973-9717 now to secure your new Morgan silver dollars before they are gone. That's 1-800-973-9717.
If you're looking for the most epic place on Earth, let's start at the base of a massive waterfall. Then trek through the thick jungle. Then climb to the peak of a snowy mountaintop. Then once you get there, keep going. Because with intelligent 4x4 and 7 drive modes and a Nissan Pathfinder, the search is the real adventure.
Available feature. Intelligent 4x4 cannot prevent collisions or provide enhanced traction in all conditions. Always monitor traffic and weather conditions.
Thanks for waking up with Dominique DiPrima on KBLA Talk 1580.
She's a recipient of the Feminist Majority Foundation's Fearless Trailblazer Award, the Congressional Black Caucus Foundation's Annual Legislative Conference Award, and the Sojourner Truth Legacy Project awarded her the Woman of Truth Award, among many others. Attorney Arnwine, Barbara Arnwine, is my guest right now. We've been talking about the Eighth Circuit's decision to basically gut the Voting Rights Act in our ability as private citizens or organizations to sue for violations of our voting rights, whether it be in gerrymandering or other kinds of voter suppression. Decision could be heading for the Supreme Court. When you said you hope they return it, you're saying you hope the Supreme Court doesn't hear it and that terrible decision remains limited to those states. Is that right? Attorney Arnwine, are you there? Can you hear me?
Oh, yes. I said I hope they reverse it.
Reverse it. I got you.
Yes, because they can literally reverse the decision and just say it's wrong and that this is contrary to the law because, what's bizarre is that the Eighth Circuit, with its 12 judges, are trying to tell the Supreme Court that it doesn't know what it's doing because in the Milligan case that was decided in June of 2023, everybody, the Supreme Court did not even raise this issue. It wasn't even raised by the opponents. It was a 5-4 decision. And even the 4 did not talk about no private right of action. So this is just something made up that's come out of, a very conservative judge who ruled in the Arkansas case, and then this very conservative far-right, circuit court decides that it's going to uphold this and not even rehear it, knowing that they're wrong, that there is no precedent, not one other circuit, everyone, in the United States. There's not one other circuit that has adopted this rule, not one other. Never. In fact, it's just not an issue. But since the Eighth Circuit has done this, all of a sudden, we're playing whack-a-mole because this issue has now been raised in the Fifth Circuit. People have raised it in Louisiana cases. It's been raised in Alabama, in litigation involving redistricting around state legislative offices, and it's been raised in Georgia. It's pending right now. In fact, in Georgia, 22 plus MAGA, and that's what I'm going to call them because that's who they are, state attorney generals, have filed to say not only should there be no private right of action by private people who are injured by these discriminatory acts, but they're also saying they've gone a step farther. They're saying that the entirety of the whole voter discrimination provision of the Voting Rights Act should be stricken as unconstitutional.
So in other words, if the Supreme Court doesn't take it up, it doesn't go away. It's going to continue to spread state by state by state. But on the other hand, it's kind of scary because given this court, which my late father used to call the extreme court, and they weren't even as extreme then as they are now, there's a very good chance that they could, permanently gut the Voting Rights Act in this way, right?
Yes. Absolutely. And that's what people are worried about, is that they could and that they might. And I think what everybody's waiting for is to see if they will issue their decision in Alexander versus, South Carolina NAACP, which is another redistricting case coming out of South Carolina. They heard oral argument on this case a while ago. They had said that they would issue a decision. Well, they didn't say it, but everybody had begged them, both the state and the plaintiffs, to issue a decision by January, the end of January, and they didn't. And so it's literally any day now is what everybody keeps saying to us. Any day now there will be a decision, but that decision will tell us where the court is, what they're thinking about matters like this. This issue of private right of action was not raised in that case. They probably will not talk about it, but it will, watching where they are on this issue of redistricting will give people signs of how bad this court is going to be on this issue. And then there will be a decision whether or not to seek review by the Supreme Court. But if we don't, we end up with this whole, problem of whack-a-mole, of trying to fight it, jurisdiction after jurisdiction. We won 2 cases so far since the Eighth Circuit opinion where this has been raised, one in Louisiana and one outright in Alabama, where the courts have just said, of course, there's a private right of action. But that doesn't stop people from bringing the issue up in other cases, and this 11th Circuit case is really bad. And what upsets me is that they're taking our taxpayer money. They're taking Black, brown, Native American, progressive, Asian. They're taking all our money to say that we shouldn't have, and using it to litigate, saying that we shouldn't have rights. People, that is so abusive. So if you're in these states like Alabama, Florida, Georgia, Indiana, Kentucky, Louisiana, Mississippi, Missouri, Montana, Nebraska, Oklahoma, South Carolina, Texas, Utah, and all the others, they are basically abusing your tax money to try to take away your freedoms and your rights. It's just disgusting.
Talking with attorney Barbara Arnwine now, she has a resolution that she wants us to get behind. We'll learn about that after news, traffic, and sports. Erwin Chemerinsky, the dean of the UC Berkeley School of Law, says that in speaking of this very issue, that if the Supreme Court doesn't reverse the Eighth Circuit's decision, it will leave little remedy for violations of one of our most important rights. Even the dissent says rights so foundational to self-government and citizenship should not depend solely on the discretion or availability of the government's agents for protection. Listening to KBLA Talk 1580.
She's reclaiming her time on KBLA Talk 1580. More First Things First with Dominique DiPrima when we come forward.
I'm Mike Moore. Here's the latest from the Black Information Network. Russian President Vladimir Putin says his nation is ready for nuclear war. The 71-year-old leader made the claim on Russian television Wednesday, just days before the presidential election that will almost certainly give him another 6-year term. In an interview, Putin said Russia is ready for negotiations on Ukraine, but they should be based in reality. When asked if Russia was ready for nuclear war, Putin said, from a military technical point of view, we are. President Biden has won the Georgia primary. Georgia Democratic Senator, African-American Raphael Warnock says the country should know by now the state shows up. Biden has clinched the Democratic nomination and will face former President Donald Trump in what's expected to be a tense rematch. And that's the latest. I'm Mike Moore from your 24/7 news source, the Black Information Network, and BINnews.com.
Unleash your style in 2024 at FS Cut and Color. Get a fabulous cut and color duo from one of their expert stylists at unbeatable prices. Only at Fantastic Sam's, where hair care meets affordability. Visit FantasticSams.com to find one of their 60 SoCal salons near you.
This is the KBLA Sports Minute with Ray Richardson.
A bad night for the Clippers. They lost by 18 at home to Minnesota, and at the end of the first quarter, the Clippers watched Kawhi Leonard walk to the locker room. He did not return. The Clippers medical staff said the team's leading scorer is suffering with back spasm. No word yet on whether Kawhi will be able to play Thursday night at Chicago. The Lakers are back in action tonight in Sacramento. Another critical game for the Lakers. They're trying to get into the 8th and final playoff spot in the Western Conference. At the moment, the Lakers are a game and a half behind Dallas. Tip-off time at 7 p.m. on ESPN. UCLA forward Adeem Bona, a 6'10 sophomore from Nigeria, was voted Pac-12 Conference Defensive Player of the Year. Bona averaged 1.8 block shots and played a key role in UCLA, allowing a conference-low 65 points per game. No debates, no speculation, just the info you need. That's your KBLA Sports Minute. I'm Ray Richardson on KBLA Talk 1580.
Pizza's here. Oh, great. I'd love some, but I'm worried about my stomach issues.
If you're worried about having diarrhea, gas, bloating, stomach pain, or loose, oily stools, it may not just be stomach issues. It could be a condition called exocrine pancreatic insufficiency, or EPI. With EPI, the pancreas doesn't release enough enzymes to break down food, but EPI is manageable. Use the symptom checker on identifyepi.com and talk to your doctor. That's identifyepi.com. Sponsored by AbbVie.
Getting quality employees to fill positions in your company is essential, but finding those people can be a major hassle unless you use ZipRecruiter. ZipRecruiter makes finding quality people a breeze. ZipRecruiter's advanced technology identifies candidates with the right skills, sends you great matches, then you can easily invite them to apply. 4 out of 5 employers who post on ZipRecruiter get a quality candidate within the first day. See for yourself. Go to ZipRecruiter.com/free to try ZipRecruiter for free. That's ZipRecruiter.com/free.
I'm getting vaccinated with Prevnar 20, a Pfizer vaccine.
So am I, because I'm at risk for pneumococcal pneumonia.
If you're 19 or older with chronic conditions like asthma, diabetes, COPD, or heart disease, or are 65 or older, you are at increased risk for pneumococcal pneumonia. Ask your doctor or pharmacist about Prevnar 20, pneumococcal 20-valent conjugate vaccine. It can help protect you against pneumococcal pneumonia in just 1 dose. Even if you've already been vaccinated with other pneumonia vaccines, Prevnar 20 may help provide added protection. Prevnar 20 is approved for adults to help prevent infections from 20 strains of the bacteria that cause pneumococcal pneumonia. Continued approval may depend on a supportive study. Don't get Prevnar 20 if you've had a severe allergic reaction to the vaccine or its ingredients. Adults with weakened immune systems may have a lower response to the vaccine. Side effects include pain and swelling at the injection site, fatigue, headache, muscle and joint pain, For full prescribing information, please call 1-855-213-2138 or visit Prevnar20.com.
Sometimes we lose, sometimes we win. Sometimes we try to fit it all in. Sometimes we don't know what's in store. Sometimes we find what we're looking for. Sometimes we're rolling easy and free. Sometimes 1 and 1 makes 3. So much to love along this ride. That's why Nationwide is on your side.
Nationwide Mutual Insurance Company and Affiliates, Columbus, Ohio.
If you love to travel, Capital One has a rewards credit card that's perfect for you. With Venture X, earn unlimited double miles on everything you buy and turn everyday purchases into extraordinary trips. Plus, receive premium travel benefits like access to over 1,300 airport lounges where you just check in and chill out. Open up a world of possibilities with Capital One. What's in your wallet?
Terms apply. Lounge access is subject to change. See CapitalOne.com for details.
This is KBLA Talk 1580, where hate meets a scholarly match.
Alrighty, we're talking with attorney Barbara Arnwine, and we've been talking about voting rights, but I have to veer off a little bit because I have an attorney on the show today, and we've got some breaking news, which is that the U.S. House of Representatives just passed a bill that would either force the sale of TikTok, to take it away from ByteDance, which is the parent company, which is a Chinese company, even though we saw a Singaporean businessman because they're in Congress, because their headquarters are in Singapore, but it's owned by a Chinese company, ByteDance. That passed the House of Representatives, which would now goes to the Senate. It's highly unlikely to pass the Senate, but I just wanted to ask you this because I'm trying to understand how we as a government can compel, and a capitalist government at that, can compel a private company to sell its assets. I mean, I'm not sure how I would have voted on that measure, but I just don't understand how you can legally force a privately owned entity to sell itself.
Well, I think this legislation is probably, in my opinion, because I believe in the First Amendment, and I think that it absolutely is I think it's wrong-headed, that we have to, that there's many reasons why if you were going to start penalizing, companies, why other companies also would not be in that crosshairs. I mean, just look at the, racial discrimination that Facebook and others have allowed to occur on their platforms. I mean, seriously, if we want to really get upset about something, let's talk about the fact that 90% of all hate that emanates from the internet comes from the U.S. We don't care about those issues. I just really want folks to understand that, this is just, anti, Chinese, xenophobia in some respects. And I do question, this whole, approach of this, the Congress wanting to take all their time to talk about these issues. I think it will die in the Senate, and it ought to die in the Senate. So that's my personal opinion. I think it's, if you want to prioritize what affects Americans, it's not all that nonsense that we see on TikTok and that we do on TikTok. And I understand, the potential problems, but those problems exist across every social media platform.
Right, and there's nothing to stop, Meta, which owns Facebook and Instagram, from giving or selling data to the Chinese, Russia, or anybody else. They're private companies. They do what they want with your data, and our data is not protected at all, and it's not just the big ones. You put your data into an app. It can be the cheese finder app. Now they have your data, and they can do with it what they want. That's what information technology is. They get information, and they use it for whatever means they see fit. So, to me, it doesn't make sense. I think, you either have to limit all the companies or you're not really creating security. But I did find it very interesting, Attorney Arnwine, that a bunch of Republicans defied Trump because Trump pivoted on this. Suddenly he was against it, follow the money, and a bunch of Republicans voted for it anyway. That's unusual.
Well, the problem with our nation is that issues of hate and fear will drive us faster than anything. When it comes to positivity, to issues of diversity and opportunity, we run. When it comes to issues of hate and fear, we run towards them. And it's a problem. I mean, that's how, you end up, with people more obsessed with the border than with, the minimum wage. That's, which has more, the minimum wage has more impact than anything happening at the border. But people are obsessed with those issues because they're all wrapped around fear and hate.
Can the president raise the minimum wage by executive order? Would that have to be a congressional? I'm talking about the federal minimum wage now, obviously, which is the lowest of all. It's like $7.25 an hour.
Mm-hmm. Well, sadly, that is within the purview of Congress.
Okay, so only Congress can do that, yeah.
Right. So that's, sadly. I think, people have really been pushing him to use his executive order power, and he has been using it very strongly. And I was at hearings yesterday on the Freedom to Vote Act and the John Lewis Voting Rights Act, and people were complaining about his using, executive order power, but he should where he can, and sadly he cannot in this instance because of the way that budgetary issues are arranged in this country. But I do want to commend Bishop William Barber, and others who have been really pushing on this whole issue of the minimum wage, because it would help to stifle poverty and would help Americans to keep up. So it's just one of those many things that we need to do instead of wasting our time on being angry with China for having something called TikTok that is more, for those of us who use it, more an instrument of amusement and entertainment, and sometimes educational, than it is for any other purpose.
Yeah, interesting too. I was reading an article about how even if Congress bans it, it's the big corporations are going to keep using it because it's their primary marketing tool to reach the younger audience. So once again, the money trumps everything. But you are telling me that it's legal for us, the United States government, to try to force a private company to sell.
I'm not sure.
Okay, because that seems really like a slippery slope.
I haven't seen anything. I haven't seen anything like this. I mean, we're able to remember the Justice Department can do antitrust work.
Right.
But
wish they would.
Not... right.
They could.
Wouldn't that make a difference in all our lives? But I don't see where they get the power from otherwise. They're going to probably say under the Commerce Clause, but that's a pretty overreach under the Commerce Clause itself. So I'm not sure that's the only place they can say that they get power from. But I don't understand. And they're going to, of course, argue that this is national security. That's right. They're going to argue that also. But I don't know if it's legal because it violates the laws about singling out it violates the jurisprudence about singling out any one company for favors or for disadvantage.
Let me tell you, if Democrats were spearheading this, they would say it was our woke communist blah blah blah.
Oh, please.
If we went after My Pillow, which we should, Anyway, we're talking with Attorney Barbara Arnwine.
But see, that's an example of why you shouldn't do it, because when you start singling out everybody's least favorite, there's quite a long list.
Right. And then private companies become in the crosshairs of Democrats and Republicans.
Right, exactly. I mean, this is just Hayden xenophobia. I mean, it's just ridiculous. And I mean, if we started going after everything that's Chinese government involved, I mean, folks better start emptying their homes because a lot of items would be gone. It's it's just a very odd obsession that they come up with.
Well, back to voting rights here. I saw the breaking news. I had to ask you.
I'm glad you raised it. Yes.
So you have this model resolution dealing with the Voting Rights Act of 1965, and you are encouraging folks to sign on. Explain what this is and what it's meant to do.
Yes. Whenever there's a problem, there's always an answer. There's several, routes to the right, path. And one of the things that I want people to know is that during the time that there was pending this question of rehearing en banc, meaning rehearing by the total, Eighth Circuit, which they refused to do, a number of 12 cities came forth and said, in an amicus brief, a friend of the court brief, said, please, protect the Voting Rights Act. Make sure that it's accessible to everyone to file their claims of racial discrimination. And Boston, West Palm Beach, a number of, cities, Kansas City, Missouri, a number of cities came forth and signed it. Well, we're actually promoting a model resolution to all cities because we're saying this issue is going to go before not only the Supreme Court if it's cert is sought, but it's going to stay in all these other courts. So we want people to go on record saying we believe in the Voting Rights Act. We believe that everyone should be free of racial discrimination when they seek to vote, and that people should have the right to file a lawsuit, a private right of action. So we want every city, no matter where you are listening from, you need to look for that model resolution, which you can find at tjcoalition.org, tjcoalition.org. You can find the model resolution. It's prominently on our website, and you can take it to your city council, your township, your parish, and say, please adopt this. Show support for the Voting Rights Act. That's one thing you can do. You can also go to our website and sign a pledge saying that you're, going to be a voting rights champion. The only way, righteous people win is by uniting and fighting together, for what's right. And you can go to Voting Rights Alliance, votingrightsalliance.org, and there's a pledge that you can sign. The other thing you can do is I mentioned the hearings I was at yesterday for the Freedom to Vote Act and for the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act. Those acts would take care of, I would say, 85% of all the problems we see out there involving voting, including this one. Because one thing we've had to do is add, for purposes of, if this doesn't get resolved in the courts, to purposes of having Congress do its job and revitalize this act like it did in in 1966. A part of this question came up, and it's come up in the Morse case and other cases where they can just affirm what the courts have said in the past, but make sure that there is a private right of action. The fourth thing people can do, and I'm really pleased to hear this, that in Minnesota the people have already risen up. And what they're doing in Minnesota, because they're under the Eighth Circuit, they're one of these circuits that states that are now being told that there is no remedy for individual racial discrimination under the Voting Rights Act. They're creating a state Voting Rights Act where they're creating the same rights that existed under the federal Voting Rights Act, and they're making it explicit that there's a private right of action. This has driven this new legislation that is taking off in Minnesota, and it should take off in other states that are facing this tragedy. Those poor 7 states. It agitates me to no degree to realize that people have to sit up and worry, can they enforce their right to vote? People think about this. And from 2020 to today's date, there have been 660 cases filed involving some form of issue around voting or election administration. 660 cases. 70% of those cases have been won by us, and that is the people, saying that there shouldn't be, the people should not be either discriminated against or treated unfairly. And we won 70% of those cases. But think about it, 660. If we pass this federal legislation, I estimate 85% of those cases go away. Because they would, make sure that that the anti-discrimination laws are strengthened across the country, and they also would establish what we call uniform standards. Because a lot of these battles are about states saying, you can't have drop boxes.
Right. So uniformity.
Right.
Okay, so we'll dive a little deeper on that, Attorney Barbara Arnwine, and continue your quite inspiring call to action, list of things we can do right now. That's next on KBLA Talk 1580.
More of First Things First with Dominique DiPrima when we come forward.
So you just used bug spray in your home. Now what? Well, between the waiting and waiting for things to dry up and keeping your family away from the mess, it hits you. You could have used Zevo. Unlike other bug sprays that stick around, Zevo goes from kill to clean in seconds. Plus, it's safe for use around people and pets when used as directed. Zevo, people-friendly, bug-deadly.
Hey, what are you doing up on the step stool?
About to clean these light fixtures. The whole family's coming over, and if there's even a speck of dust in the house, my abuela will find it.
Here, I got a Swiffer duster to help with that.
A Swiffer what?
A Swiffer duster. It has this cool extendable handle that reaches 6 feet to get high and low, with fluffy dusters that easily trap and lock dust.
So, no more step stool?
No more step stool.
Easily trap and lock dust from hard-to-reach places with the Swiffer duster. Love it or your money back.
KBLA Talk 1580 joins you in celebrating Women's History Month. I'm Dominique DiPrima. Join me and Black Lives Matter Los Angeles for a reclamation in honor of Breonna Taylor called Black Women Are Divine. There'll be food, music, performances, and healing services with a special performance by Aloe Black. I'll be your MC, and it's all free. Black Women Are Divine is a space for Black women, girls, and femmes to receive love and healing, and for others to express their appreciation. Many of the 33 Black Lives Matter grassroots chapters across the nation are participating in this honoring of the memory of Breonna Taylor on the anniversary of her death. The BLMLA event is taking place on Sunday, March 17th from 11 a.m. to 4 p.m. at Norman O. Houston Park at 4800 South La Brea in Los Angeles. The park at the Summit. For special parking options and more information, visit blmla.org. Say her name, Breonna Taylor, and join us in loving on Black women. Happy Women's History Month from all of us at KBLA Talk 1580.
If your Medi-Cal is ending, Cover California is here to help. Cover California is a service from the state that helps you get affordable health insurance. In many cases, at no cost to you, just like with Medi-Cal. We have quality health plans, and we'll help you every step of the way to get the one that works for you and your family. So, if you're no longer eligible for Medi-Cal, check out Cover California. We'll keep you covered. Learn more at coveredca.com.
Hey there, Los Angeles. This is James Lucky Jr., publisher and editor of Los Angeles News Observer. Are you hungry for news that matters to you in the African-American communities of Los Angeles? Well, buckle up, because we got the scoop you've been craving. Stay in the know and never miss a beat with our free weekly publications conveniently available near you. Or hop on the digital wave and become an exclusive subscriber at OGNSC.com. Don't forget to join the party on Instagram and Twitter at OGNSCINC for behind-the-scenes access and sizzling updates. No more FOMO. Let's stay informed, connected, and empowered together.
Hi, Hi, I'm Dominique DiPrima, inviting you to join me at the City of Hawthorne's Business Expo and Job Fair, presented by Hawthorne City Councilwoman Katrina Manning. Explore great opportunities with leading national and local companies and participate in panel discussions with top entrepreneurs such as Goose the Barber, Camille C. Terry, and special guest speaker Danny Bakewell Jr., president of the LA Sentinel. So please join me and Council Member Katrina Manning on Thursday, March 14th from 3 to 7 p.m. at the Hawthorne Memorial Center at 3901 West El Segundo Boulevard in Hawthorne for the Hawthorne Business Expo and Job Fair. That's Thursday, March 14th, the City of Hawthorne's Business Expo and Job Fair. Visit their website at hawthornebusinessexpo.org or call 310-349-2908. That's 310-349-2908 to register. It's absolutely free and open to the public. I'll see you there.
Febreze. So my home is also my office, and before I can focus, every room's gotta be clean. That means tidying up, then spraying my Febreze Air Mist. Ooh, that's fresh. Febreze Air Mist scents are all high quality. They fight any weird funk, and they give my air an instant boost of freshness. So not only does my home smell good, I feel good too. After I Febreze, it's time to start my day. Breathe happy, Febreze, la 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 la.
The conversation continues right now with Dominique DiPrima on First Things First.
We're talking with attorney Barbara Arnwine. Among the many other accolades I've mentioned, she's a lecturer at Columbia Law School and president and founder of the Transformative Justice Coalition. She just finished telling you to go to tjcoalition.org, learn more, get involved. You know, I always wonder, Attorney Arnwine, when I see these city council resolutions or state resolutions on national matters or international matters, sometimes I think we're just blowing hot air, but it sounds to me like you're saying they can have a real impact.
Absolutely. And that's why it's so important, everyone, that you look at your city council, your county commission right now, and see if they've adopted this model resolution. If not, you want to work with whoever you know to get it introduced so they can consider it, because everyone thinks that, courts just sit around and they're, just looking at the law and that's all they care about. They care about politics. They care about what people are saying. They care about what they're hearing. And that's why the courts have moved forward on some issues, and that's why they're moving backwards on others, because they think they're trying to do what the people want sometimes. And it's really important for them to hear from all these governmental entities saying that we need this law, because all they're hearing from is these MAGA state attorney generals who are, I don't even know how to say it, but they are just determined to have nothing but white political domination. And the only black faces they want to see are blacks who are anti-black.
Clarence
right?
Thomas.
It's the same thing.
Yeah.
So they right.
So you were saying, find someone, a legislator or an advocate within your whatever level of government you're dealing with, and get them to introduce this model resolution. You've got it all written out. They just have to fill in the blanks.
Yes, and we're going to actually put up some videos in the coming week that will tell people more about, how you walk a resolution through your city council, through your county commission, and I just want people to, sometimes when you are facing really blatant, ugly injustice, you kind of like feel lost. You feel stranded. You feel isolated. Well, I just want you to know that you have power here. And I really want people to step up and, and do those 4 things we talked about, because that is where you exercise your power, you make the change, where you stand in the footsteps of so many others who have stood. And Dominique, I just got to give you some praise. Thank you. I really love hearing what you're doing for Breonna Taylor, for Say Her Name. Just thank you for the show. Just thank you for all your work.
I appreciate you, and we have some folks in the chat that are saying the same. The YouTube chat saying the same to you, and I second that emotion. Attorney Barbara Arnwine, thanks for encouraging and inspiring us, and for all the incredible work that you're doing every day.
Got to. And, people who want to be part of this work, of this organizing, we have a whole organizing committee that works on nothing but this whole issue of the Eighth Circuit and the defense of the Voting Rights Act. If you want to be part of that, you can join us. You can become part of that committee. You can write J. Dawkins at tjcoalition.org, and she will add you to our committee.
Great. All right. Thank you so much, Attorney Arnwine. Pleasure to talk with you.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
I'd like to end with a quote today. I picked one from our conversation with Barbara Arnwine. She says, "Whenever there's a problem, there is always a solution." I love that. Simple but important to remember. Tavis Smiley's up next. He's got an incredible lineup of information and guests for you. And of course, remember, you can tap in on YouTube. You can go wherever you get your podcast. And all of our shows are there available to listen to anytime for free. I'm Dominique DiPrima. History's now, and we are making it together. Until tomorrow, one love.
KBLA 1580 Santa Monica.
Mike Moore, here's the latest. From a military technical point of view, we are. President Biden has won the Georgia primary. Georgia